guys, and welcome back to my channel. So today we will be looking at Chandler Morrison's debut novel, Dead Inside. I would like to preface this review by saying this is the most bizarre, effed up,
metal satanic shit that makes me want to leave my brain.
It also deserves 5-star on Goodreads from me. I'll explain it later. The book officially switched my definition of macabre. I thought that, my level of macabre was like here, but as it turns out, the macabre of this book was like there, along with the Serbian film. Like, speaking of which, yes, this book for me is the Serbian film of books. Let me know if you actually find something worse. But you know what? Don't let me know. I don't need to know that there's something that is actually worse than this book.
I'm hopeful. Yes, I am hopeful for today.
The book is mercifully short, fast-paced, and do not overstay its welcome. Apparently, this book falls under a horror subgenre of splatterpunk. And I thought, is it a thing? And it is a thing. And it caters to very niche audience, that's for sure. So the synopsis goes, in this bleak and disturbingly erotic debut novel, iconoclast Chandler Morrison provides readers with a dark exploration of the nature of death, individuality, and generational identity. Along the way, lines will be crossed, taboos will be violated, and common decency will take an extended leave of absence. This is not for the faint of heart or weak of stomach, or anyone who enjoyed 50 Shades of Grey. A young hospital security guard with a disturbingly unique taste in women, a maternity doctor with a horrifically unusual appetite. When the two of them meet, they embark on a journey of self-discovery as they shatter societal norms while engaging in a destructive and abhorrent behavior, as they unwittingly help each other understand a world in which neither of them seems to belong. They begin to realize what it truly means to be alive, and that it might not always be a good thing. So basically we have our two main. One is a necrophilia, and another is a cannibal who has a specific taste for babies. So this book follows the perspective of our nameless protagonist. I was really overwhelmed with this book. It's like an assault on my brain. So it's from a first-person perspective, which means that we get an unreliable narrator and the subjective views of life. I see some of the 1-2-star review. It's either they're not a fan of the subject matter, or maybe they mistaken the book as a proponent for the subject matter, which I think is absolutely wrong. The book does not perpetuate any of those. First-person perspectives are not reliable narrator. They force you to see the character's point of view, but they're not necessarily making you side with the character. I mean, just because you read You by Carolyn Klepnes from Joe Goldberg's perspective, that doesn't make you think that stalking is a good thing. Don't you? Anyway, I give this book 5 stars because it was well written. Like, gory, macabre, subject matter aside, this book is just so well written. And for a debut, this is actually really good. I love it. The word choice speaks volumes on the emotions or lack of emotions that the character has, and how disconnected he is from everyone else in the world around him. The prose is slick with this dark humor and the personality, and it's just hard to believe that it is a debut's work. Excuse me while I go puke and then commit harakiri with a tree branch or something. I can't handle sentimentality. I really can't. There are parts of this book that make me smile, that makes me laugh, that makes me want to actually shove a chopstick in my throat. Yeah, it's really good. I'm not gonna lie. The epigraph in the beginning of the book kind of give the ending away a little bit. It also reminds me of A Rose for Emily. So the story opens with our nameless protagonist getting the first sentence in the book basically says, too warm, too wet, too alive. That's how I would describe her mouth. Okay. So we get a hint of his sexual preferences, but he's also self-aware of how his taste does not fit into the rest of the world. I am a harmless phantom, floating below the radar of perception, granting me a ghostly existence that permits me to freely engage in my unusual extracurriculars. People don't see me, and I don't really see them. It's better for everyone that way. Again, the story is not aimed to rationalize the psychological state of the characters or normalize it. This actually acts as a character study on morally and emotionally depraved person maneuvering this world as what is essentially a freak of nature. Now, make no mistake, I have no delusions of sanity. I consider myself to be vastly intelligent and egregiously well-read, and anyone with half of a functioning intellect would know that a person with my proclivities is a few shades of fucked up. Self-awareness really doesn't mean shit though. It is in fact little more than psychological masturbation, and has more about the same net worth as a wad of semen and a handful of crumpled tissues. No cockroach ever desired not to be a cockroach, just because it knew it was a cockroach. And it is also ironic on how much he hates babies. I've never been any kind of athlete or anything, but am I seriously the only person who realizes that infants are perfect punting shape? If we replaced football with babies, I would have been far more successful in high school gym class, because this is so going to turn back on him. And then later we get a scene of him having his way with a corpse. Yeah. This thing about him, you can call this maybe an allegory for rape, since corpse doesn't really give consent. I don't know. Maybe it is actually some way a way to talk about rape. His life will turn upside down when he met the other main character, Helen Winchester, or Dr. Helen Winchester. Her eyes though, those big dead eyes, they're mesmerizing. Her irises are like hard blue eyes encased in dusty crystalline globes, glimpses of Neptune through a telescope with a breath-fogged lens. So our main character works as a security guard in this hospital while he's still studying, and he recognized something in this doctor that is familiar to him. She's standing in the corner, seemingly removed from all the chaos, staring at the woman in the bed. She has eyes like halogen lamps, but there's something strange about them, like the light in them is cold and detached. They're glossed over and hazy, cast with a beautiful deadness that I'm used to seeing when I peel back the eyelids of my lovers. There's something else in them too though. There's hunger that emits not only from her eyes, but haunts her entire face. And it's then that I realize she isn't staring at the woman in the bed. She's staring at the dead baby in the woman's arms. And then he caught her eating a baby naked in the morgue. So for once, I mean, he doesn't really feel so alone. Helen, unlike him, is not as dead inside. He's dead inside because, you know, he doesn't care for connection, he doesn't care for warmth, he doesn't care if he's alone. He's actually fine the way he is. He doesn't want happiness, he just wants to live the way he has been living, and he's okay with that. He was just pleased to know that he wasn't actually alone, but it wasn't exactly happiness per se. In fact, she was actually more excited about finding him than him finding her, because Helen still craves the interaction with like-minded people and really constantly tries to connect with him, while he just wants to screw dead girls. She even asked him out on dates, and he's like, he tries to do all these normal stuff that guys do on date, not because he wants to, but because he's like, oh, I guess I have to do this. She even initiated what could have been their first time together if he actually decided to go with it, but he refused. He felt nothing towards her because he's dead inside. I've been dead inside for a long time. When I dream of camaraderie, I'm surrounded by skeletons, flesh barely clinging to their ancient bone. Helen though, Helen is alive. This poses a problem for me. And no matter how Helen approaches him, ultimately he just likes dead girls, and the fact that he's already attracted to Helen, but he's not that attracted to her. He would only be more attracted to her and really attracted to her once she's dead. which, spoiler alert, she will be. And things go from weird gross to gross, yuck, I want to bleach my brain, what the fish. And when they both enjoy each other, and he so during that moment he was so, say, engrossed in that whole experience that he ended up he was immediately appalled by the connection that he has with a living person after so long that he just rejects her more afterwards. I have to stop thinking like this. If I'm not careful, everything I've built within myself could unravel. My solitary mind palace, composed of every dead girl I'd ever effed, would come crashing down. I'd suddenly be one of them. The normal people. The people who have real sex with other humans. Living humans. I've always stayed true to myself, to my unique passion, and because of that, I've remained safe, untouched. If I start to become like all the other flea-ridden sloths of this country, I'll become vulnerable, stripped bare, unprotected against the elements. I am fortified by that which makes me different. As long as I remain on the outside, on the lunatic fringe, if you will, I cannot be harmed. But if I allow Helen to pull me into the swarming mass of walking, talking, slobbering trolls, I'll instantly be trampled. I just can't have that. He's someone with principles, and he considers himself as a sort of a higher being, like Hannibal Lecter. Which one do you think is worse, being a cannibal or being a necrophilia? Guess what happens? Helen's pregnant, so she wants to keep the baby, and obviously he doesn't want anything to do with it because it's wrong, not just, because of who they are, but because of the way the baby was conceived as they were doing stuff with dead stuff. And plus she's a baby eater. As the story progresses, her stages of pregnancy, also the deterioration of her mental state. At first she wants to keep the baby, as a mother, because, he finds it strange. She's a baby eater, and then she has a baby, and what do you think's gonna happen? But then you must be thinking that, oh no, it can't be. Well, she's the mother. No way, a mother's gonna eat the child. Have you seen hamsters? And then after that, she decides to abandon her desire for normal motherhood and decided to raise the child like her. All my life, I just wanted to be normal. But I think I'm starting to see things the way you see them. Maybe it is just like you said. We're special. To hell with everyone else. People like us. People who are into strange things, I guess. We're better than the others, The normal people. They're missing out. Even he understands what a terrible idea he is. Although deep down he is basically prioritizing and protecting his own interests. But still, he got a point. And things eventually got his way when Helen finally has a miscarriage. And the story ends with an eye-opening bang. I am not gonna describe that because yuck. And the story ends very open-ended way. I don't want to overthink it, but yeah, his worst fears is having people discovering who he truly is and then having his lifestyle disrupted. He might be killed or maybe sent to a mental asylum because of it. I think that at that point, death is probably the best route for him. Although, I'm not sure if he's the kind of person who would rather kill himself. So eventually, Dead Inside is really well written prose. If you think that you can stomach a lot of taboo stuff, I suggest you check it out. The writing definitely captures the protagonist's cynical view of the world, and this very POV establishes that this discomfort and surreal feeling of being inside the mind of someone like him. Again, I emphasize that the novella is in no way endorsing this kind of lifestyle, but it is definitely the language that it uses, the visual imagery is definitely to take you completely out of your comfort zone. Hell, I was yeeted out of my comfort zone. I do want to read more of his writings, but I'm gonna need time to process. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.